This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to Worse Than You with Mo Fry Pasick, me. I'm Mo, and every week I'm asking today's most captivating artists how they got their acts together. This show is not about their best or most famous, or as I always say, most financially lucrative work. It's about the work that means the most to them, their creative process, and why they make their art. This week's guest is a writer, comedian, and producer. She's worked for After Midnight on CBS and Betches. And she's been featured on JFL, Comedy Central, MTV, and more. Her live show, We Hope You Have Fun, has been running since 2012. And her off-Broadway show, I Don't Trust Adults, is now running through May 3rd at Soho Playhouse in New York. Please welcome to the pod, Ruby Karp. Ready, set, show! How are you doing? Welcome.
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, a little teeny lizard just, I can see my backyard from here, and a little teeny lizard walked past, and I feel like that's good luck.
That's a good omen, for sure.
I think so. Are you in New York right now?
I am in New York right now.
Great.
Yeah. I'm actually from here.
Oh, are you a classic, like, city born?
I am a city kid.
So chic.
Sorry, not to brag.
Yeah, so chic. It's in your blood.
But I moved to LA like a year and a half ago for After Midnight.
Oh, sure. And condolences.
Thank you so much.
For those who don't know, After Midnight was canceled, which sucks because it was a cool space for alt comedy. And
Yeah. You know, it was renewed and then canceled on the same day, which is...
I did not know that part. That's hell on this earth.
Tis show business, if you will.
And now you got time to be on Broadway, baby. Right now you're off Broadway, but we're one word away. You know what I mean?
We are on the island, and that is what matters.
Party rock. Well, can you tell my listeners a little bit about your off-Broadway show, Too Long Didn't Read, TLDR, for them to know?
Yes. So I Don't Trust Adults is the story of how I am what I call a failed child star, and about these 6 different adults who caused me to be forever suspicious adults that I interacted with in both the industry, in theater school, and just generally as a child.
I'm trying to see when I'm getting to New York, because this sounds so exciting and like kind of right up my alley in the meta way, where it's like a story that heals you but is healing and has to be told from a certain perspective, is pretty direct. It sounds like you do say you name names, but it's also like so empowered in that way, where it doesn't sound like it's like purely about you still. That sounds so incredible. It
is like the lowest stakes early Taylor Swift thing that I could possibly do.
It's a love story, baby. Just say yes. So we talk about sort of clay on the mound here, like logistically kind of breaking down creating things, because when someone says like make a shitty draft or do something, it's sometimes ambiguous. So when you are talking about your experience in the industry at a very young age, which we can even start there, like how do you even approach zeroing in on the parts that you find exciting to speak about in that? Because you've lived a life, you know what I mean? You're like, I don't know what else there is.
You know, it's so interesting because this whole show started as just a Google Doc that I was writing for myself just to get my anger out at just, the world and my life and theater school. And a big part of my show is how I never got cast in my school musicals, and that I was literally, even though I was writing a book in high school and I was, giving TED Talks and doing all this stuff, literally the only thing I cared about was being cast in my school musicals. And how that, impacted me and the adults I met throughout all of these places. And then I got to college and I kept making new friends who would be like, tell me about your life. Like, who are you? And I would have to give them so much context on
where do you begin?
Like where do you even start, that I like almost had this script of like, well, I did this and then I did this and then this happened, and then I was almost like, I wish I just had a show. I wish I just had like a tape I could give my friends and be like, just watch this and you'll get everything. You'll just understand the context. And so it was a mix of this Google Doc that I just kind of wrote for myself, and kind of also wanting to, a big part of the show is about my digital footprint. And because I am unfortunately a child of the internet.
More than most.
And so part of it was also me just kind of clearing my name and being like, hey, here's my side of this story.
Completely. And it's so funny. The reason I do think you're up my alley is I did a play for Fringe last year, and one of the scenes, the character Jolie, she literally plays a tape because she's so sick of explaining herself to everyone. And the thing that I liked about the character playing a tape of, quote, everything bad that's ever happened to her dates she plays, to see if they still love her, was the sort of difficulty people had digesting that, because some of them were like, I wish I could, that's amazing. And other people are like, you should be okay being misunderstood. And at the same time, it's like, it's all of those things. It's like sometimes certain people do need to explain more, and it is exhausting, and it would be nice to have a tape. And also, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't need to explain ourselves or context for people to understand or give grace for things they don't understand?
Right. And there is also just something empowering about telling your story over and over again, but for me in a scripted format. Like, I was so exhausted by, in my like real life, telling people the story over and over again, but there was something to scripting it and making it funny and making it like a bit that made me be excited to talk about this stuff that otherwise I was like mortified and embarrassed by. How
did you step outside of yourself in that? Like, how did you scriptify it, and did you make yourself a character, or how did you work with that?
So my show is pretty much like a standard one-woman, stand-up inspired show, in that it's not, none of it's a character. Like, this is me, but my life is very cartoonish. It's everything that's happened to me is like, what are you talking about? So it almost helps that a lot of the things I'm talking about happened to me when I was like 12. On top of that, I'm also, explaining these circumstances that are so insane that they are funny, that it almost allows me to step out of myself and look at my life and laugh at it, instead of being like, oh, I can't believe this is my life.
Oh, gosh, yeah, because it's just so human, even if cognitively you're like, I know I shouldn't be embarrassed. You're like, but I am a human being with feelings. And like,
yes.
And again, it's so funny because we're talking about not having to, but for listeners who don't know, a quick rundown, Ruby has truly been on stage and in sort of definitely the, I would say, like the millennial alt comedy scene since she was a baby. And her mother worked in the comedy space, and then she just not.
My mom, I have a joke about this in my show. My mom has actually never worked in comedy. The one thing she did do in comedy was produce my show, because I famously was a child doing stand-up. So
love it.
My mom would book my show for me, but my mom, I have a joke about this in my show, my mom's not really in entertainment at all. The reason we know, and I was around a lot of comedians growing up, is because my mom had a lot of friends who were comics. My mom also just wanted to hook up with comedians but couldn't get a babysitter. So like,
I feel that. Good for her.
A lot of it was just, I was raised by a single mom, so a lot of it really was just my mom hanging out with her friends, me being there, being an only child who loved attention, and then kind of getting on stage because of all of these random factors.
Which is also such like, it's so beautiful you're reflecting on it, but what a confusing experience to have such validation early and then wanting to get your musicals and stuff and be like, wait, but everyone said this was going to be good and like work out.
Right, of course. And also just, I don't, when you're a child, you don't know how success and fame works. Like a big thing I talk about in the show is I was a child journalist and child like they wanted me to be the next Greta Thunberg, and I was not like
You're a ham.
I say this in the show. I'm like, Greta Thunberg is an incredibly gifted and brilliant like former child, I was just some kid. Like I was not
a gifted former child is a credible calling card.
You know what, like I was not, and she's still gifted, she's still a genius.
Yes, I tease.
I like a normal regular person became smart over time, but I was slated to be one of the like child prodigies. And for me, I was like, well, of course I'll do a TED Talk when I'm 13 because that will obviously lead to me being on Broadway. That is how fame works.
Oh, that's so sweet because it leads to what I was kind of wondering of like, what's your organic impulse? Like, what do you feel was just like being around and to like know that you were truly internally a kid that was like, Broadway. And then when like success came in TED Talk form, you're like, and still Broadway.
No, and in my head, I'm like, and that is, thank God, another step in the right direction.
I feel this so deeply. I played volleyball before like I did acting or anything, but it was like my secret. I wanted to act. And so when I was getting recruited for places to choose to go with a scholarship, and I was like, I guess I'll go to Boston because it's the closest to New York. And it was like, what?
It's like, so that's actually a different state. That's actually a completely different place.
But my mind, I was like, this is how I'll get there. Like, there isn't a D1 program, really. I want to go to New York. So this is smart. Like, it's this cute inner child that's like, I can't say the thing, but I'll get close to the thing, and this is how it works. And I think that is so endearing that, like, no matter what internally, when you have a dream, you're going to like match it to what you're doing.
You're going to find a way to be like, yeah, and I'm getting closer. I'm for sure. I'm near it. I'm on the East Coast.
Oh, absolutely. I can smell it from here. Well, you were in the city proper. That is like it is so exciting to me that like you are parsing through actively and at the time all these different identities of like sort of, you know, industry kid, not industry kid, mother adjacent, but trying to be as internally as a child and still having a creative force. It's like so many different dancing parts.
It's very funny because my mom was supportive of me and knew that I like wanted to be a working child, because I was one of those kids who was like, I see that the girls on Disney are my age. Yeah. Like, I see how to do this and I want to do this. And my mom was the kind of mom that, because I've been doing stand-up since I was like 8, people were approaching me to like represent me and all this stuff, even when I was like 10. And my mom would always say, you are not allowed to have representation until you are at least 16.
Protective.
Because she was like, I don't want you going on set. And yet I still did a lot of working child things.
Yeah.
But it is this kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, my whole childhood of I am in these spaces with these big people, and then I'm also very normal. And growing up in New York City, the kids around me are actually doing way more than me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Which is also so internally invalidating, even if it's not like literally. It's confusing because you're like, I feel this, but nothing's shifting.
Well, it also makes it hard, and I'm sure, all adults can relate to this, but it makes it very hard growing into adulthood to celebrate your success and your wins because you're so focused on other people and their success that you're like, well, yeah, I'm doing this cool thing, but this person did this really cool thing 2 years ago.
Yeah, or the thing that's cool to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not healthy to ever compare yourself to anyone, but particularly it's like not fair to you and your wins to not celebrate them because you're so focused on other people.
100%. But it is the gift and the curse, I think, right? The gift of being so active, so young, and so is that you do learn these lessons early.
Yes.
And it's also, I imagine, because you're only, is it 24 now or?
I'm 24, yeah.
Yeah, so it's still tough though, because I'm sure there's that sort of patronizing aspect of people just assuming that because of age you don't have the wisdom that you do from these experiences. And when you're talking about like giving yourself those wins, that's spoken from experience. But to take up that space on a stage is brilliant because you're saying like, I know I don't look it and I don't get, but guess what, bitch?
Yeah, well, I have like a few lines in the show about this where I'm like, a lot of my friends will be like, Ruby, like, don't freak out about anything. You're 24. You're so young. You have so much time. And I'm like, right. But what you don't understand is that for me, this is like, I'm on year like 16 of working. Like for me, it's like
truly.
it's been, the same way that everyone is waiting for their big moment in my head, because I'm still, growing and learning to not conflate my child self with my adult self. But it is sometimes in my head, I'm like, but I've been doing this for so long, almost 2 decades. And it's like, yeah, but you've also only been alive for like 2 decades.
Wow, this house is cute. But can I really get in the game in this economy? I do have savings, and I am responsible-ish. I should bury it. I'm being wild. But what if I'm not being wild, though? Could I actually score a...
Kick off your home buying journey with Zillow's new buyability tool. It makes it easy to find out what you can afford, so you can get off the bench and onto the playing field with confidence. Check your buyability, only on Zillow.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Well, that's the dance that you're probably going to be way better at, and not a lot of people are going to understand, right? It's not that, like, you don't need them to say yes. They are right in that there's nothing hindering you. They are wrong to invalidate an organic feeling that comes at a certain point in a process. Like, there's inevitably, 4 years, and when you're a senior, 4 years in high school, you start to feel like you want to go somewhere, you want to move. But if a freshman's saying that, it's like, no, you don't, whatever. It's like, but you've already had that. You do have that feeling.
Right.
Like 100%. And so it's like you are dancing with a lot of like, not necessarily being seen. And it's just exciting to hear you speak about it and trying to say like, I'm trying not to conflate my identity, because you are also using your old identity for your current art. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I like visually, I'm like watching you write and it's like 1,000 plates. You're like running back and forth.
I'm in a lot of therapy. It's awesome.
God bless. Do you enjoy that? Is that been a part of the writing process?
I do. I mean, for me, a lot of theater and a lot of the art I like to make has a lot of heart and has a lot of purpose, because I think, when you're 16 and you're like, I want to be on Broadway, I want to make movies, I want to make TV shows, you also don't realize how much money even the smallest show costs.
It's psychotic. It's crazy.
Insane how expensive an off-Broadway show, a short film, like even the tiniest microcosm of a thing costs so much money that
it blows my mind.
I got to a point where I was like, oh, everything I make has to have a lot of purpose, because I'm not like a rich kid. Like I'm funding like everything myself. So if I'm gonna, not buy a house to make a show, then I guess it better have meaning.
Yeah, it better not be some random flop.
Exactly. And so I think for me in crafting this story, I call it like an exorcism, because a lot of this is me just getting this story out of my system. But it is also, I really, really believe in it. And I think it's a beautiful message, and it's a nice and vulnerable story. And I think like, what's the point in throwing 2 years of your life and all of your money into something if not to be vulnerable? And
say that 100%.
Just do it,
Just do it, because what was this for then? What was that for?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, no matter what you make, of course you want it to get acclaim. Of course you want it to lead to another thing. But when you really step back and look at, the actual art you're making, it's like, well, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I love doing this, and because I want to do this, and because this is my dream. So let's make it good.
But that's beautiful. And I think people conflate vulnerability with having to have like trauma or talk about hard things. And it's like, no. Be vulnerable in how seriously you're going to take the stupidest shit. Like in how seriously you're going to commit to, regardless of if it is painful storytelling or joyful or silly. Like you have to be vulnerable in saying, I want this and I want it to be good. And I think that's where people get caught up in understanding vulnerability.
Yeah. And also, vulnerability means different things to different people.
Constantly.
I have been called disarmingly earnest. And so for me, I love, like, I'm one of those people who, like, I think when I'm on a podcast that I'm just talking to one person. Like,
Oh, same. But that's a gift, I think.
Yes,
I feel protected when I forget that anyone's there. I'm like, thank God. Ooh,
I'm like,
spooky.
no, well, that's my thing. I think because I've been doing comedy, like live comedy since I was a kid, I've always just been like, audiences aren't real. Those aren't real people. They don't remember anything I'm saying. They just go home and they're like, we saw something tonight.
Yeah, I haven't been perceived. No.
Nobody's ever thought about me before, actually. And I think because of that, I love being, overly honest and earnest. And, it's funny that cringe has been a big conversation in recent years, because for me, I am like, I love being cringe. Like,
Cringe away, baby.
For me, I'm like, I love earnestness. I think it's so beautiful, and I think I love vulnerability, and I just love seeing someone be their full self. And to me, that's what makes good art.
Was that though, because it's like that personality type is abrasive to people who aren't comfortable with themselves or their own truth. So was that a process of coming to accept that part of you, or was that what you were embraced for young and you got to enjoy?
It's funny because I've always had a very big personality. I'm actually, if you can believe it, way more reserved now than I was as a kid. Because I was an only child and I had a single mom who encouraged me. And also I grew up around comedians who encouraged me. I was always like, everyone loves me. Everyone loves my big personality.
I love this kid.
And I have no enemies.
Heaven.
And then, what the show is about is how I met so many adults who were just like, you suck. Stop doing that. And for me, it's been this big journey and then I work in social media as my day job. Really good for your self-esteem. And like a big part of my first media job was every single video I made, it would just be like filled with people in the comments being like, cringe, this person's a millennial. I'm not, I am Gen Z. Just like stuff like that. And I think it really forced me to not only get comfortable with critique, but also just be like, yeah, like obviously people are not gonna like your really, really big personality, but the people who do like it really get it. And I can't name anyone who everyone loves. And so I think I realized that the best way for me to get through that was just to embrace it.
That's beautiful, because I think that perception, right? I don't necessarily, think everyone loves me, but I don't necessarily consider that someone's going through their day hating me or being like cringe or whatever. Like, I don't have, what? Okay. Like, and if that's just not true, like.
And that's also not like, it's not your problem.
It's not my problem. And what I forget though is like, then you'll be at an event or something, or like you'll be threatening to someone and they won't sign a deal or whatever the thing is. And I'm trying to figure it out, being like, oh, how could I, And then you forget, like, oh, people are immature. Like, oh, people project.
No, some people just kind of suck. And you're
That's
like, wait.
Such a bummer. I'm bummed for them.
No, I'm so bummed. No, because I'm one of those people who like, I get coffee with someone one time and I'm like, so we're best friends. And then they're like, so we were networking. And I'm like, right.
Networking's spooky.
But I'm also like, but we're best friends. Like, I think, it's such a gift to have that quote unquote naiveness.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's naive. I think it just means you like have a big heart.
Just those people need boundaries. That's the thing. Or whatever. Sorry, what you were going to say. Yeah.
Well, it's just like, I think there's nothing wrong with being like, why can't everyone be my friend? I think you just have to be cautious of the bad people.
But so that's exactly what I mean, where it's like when each thing is swinging the pendulum of saying like, well, no one can be your friend. It's like, yeah, it can be homies. I can have 6 boundaries and be like, that's a homie at a party only, but I like them. Like, it's not getting taken advantage of when someone is using you for networking, which is great, but it's seeing for that for what it is and appreciating them also. But people want you to hate them or not like them or not be friends. And it's like, everyone take a chill, everyone just swing a little bit.
Exactly. Like, it all anyone wants to do is just do their art and their dream. And I think once you realize that about other people, it makes you a lot more like empathetic towards their weirdness.
Yeah, again, and that's even what I work on too, where it's like I give too much, like where if someone's being like absolutely like violent, manipulative, I'm like, do we think that maybe they have a disability? That
no, and it's like, and is it because it's because they just want to be my friend and they're intimidated?
Yes,
like,
and you know what? I can help them through that. I can help them through it.
It's like no, and often sometimes people are just assholes, like, and that's okay.
And I love them for that because guess what, honey, you're just making us look better. God bless.
Yeah, exactly.
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on turbotax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live full service.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Fresh kicks, spring tops, new dresses. There's always a score.
I mean, the denim section is unreal.
Why do I rack? All the dresses. I always find something amazing.
Head to your Nordstrom Rack store to find can't-miss deals on all the spring things. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
So again, we talk process, and we get to the emotional stuff, but when it comes to like writing stand-up as a kid, was that like an organic, to me also, if this kid is Broadway, is it like that was the easiest step, or is that something you really want to do?
So this is like a big journey in the show for me.
I'm so excited.
I really thought that stand-up was just a way to perform. Mm-hmm. Like I would do theater programs. I went to theater camp. I went to a theater high school. So for me,
that should be illegal, that sentence.
Oh my. No, and it's like, and so obviously I only dated gay men until I was 18.
Incredible. That's theater high school, baby.
But at the same time, it really made me value stage time, and it really, really forced me to hone what made me unique as a performer, because even when you're like 14 at theater school, like the first thing they tell you is that everyone in this room is your competition and only like 1% of you will make it. And I am like a girl with brown hair and brown eyes. I'm like, yes, I am so unique and I have really good chances. So like even when I was a kid, my mom was like, you need to find your thing and create space for yourself, because even, you could get lucky and someone could just be like, we have this role for you and you're perfect for it.
Yeah.
But even if that happens, you do still need to find ways to make space for yourself in this world that you want to be in. And so I saw stand-up as a way to do that. And also, I didn't think of stand-up as a career. What people don't realize is that, like, until very recently, stand-up was not a way to, like, make money.
When I say very recently,
like very recently.
It is psychotic, the amount of people, just because since the pandemic, because they see the videos and they think it's tons of money. I'm like, you don't understand. What? There was a guarantee no money, in fact.
Yes.
Except for six people.
The point of it was not ever to be famous or make money.
No, you get a writer's job from it. Like, you'd get a gig.
Exactly. And it was a way to make you a better writer, a better performer, all these things. And so I always just saw stand-up as like a thing I always did. Like I was like, since I was conscious, I do this. So obviously I'm going to do it. And then over time, as I had this very complicated journey with acting and Broadway and all of these things, I came back to stand up again and again because I had this monthly show at UCB, so I had to do it. But also, it really was the one thing that I could always rely on and know wouldn't reject me in the same way that acting rejects you.
Yeah, there's so much control in it, and that's not what you have in acting.
No.
Famously. Well, that is a beautiful thing, because it's like, it is a creative outlet that isn't necessarily the medium that calls to you, but is the medium that holds you when you're trying to figure out where you want to go next. And I think it's good for listeners to hear that, because sometimes we are forced to conflate the thing that's financially lucrative and, you know, that our inner spirit, our inner inspiration. And it's like, well, that's not always it. And like, maybe that thing, that story, that stand-up isn't always going to be for a tour. It's going to be to get your energy focused back on you and what you want until you can have an off-Broadway show. Like that sort of energy that you did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, preserving your energy and deciding what it is you want to throw yourself and your, you know, wants and ambitions into is also important because, you know, at the end of the day, you are a person and like you want to like actually live a good life. Like for me, the past 2 years have been about this one-woman show, and I sometimes will be like, oh my God, why have I not been making Instagram sketches?
Or a short film that I could put into a festival.
Or a short film.
Yes, yeah.
Focus, put your energy into the thing you want to do, and be okay with the fact that that is the thing you're doing, and you do not have to be doing 12 things at once.
Grow where you plant it. Yeah.
It is actually better and more productive most of the time for your projects to not stretch yourself thin.
Is that something you learned from experience?
Oh, yes. Well, I have so many like moments where I'm like, why have I not written a new pilot? And it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you're literally working on an off-Broadway show. You have a month late. Like, yeah,
like actually relax. Like it's all gonna be okay. But I think there's, especially again with like the comparing yourself to people, or just even the day and age we're in now, where just there's 12 million things happening at once. I think it's so easy to be like, well, if this doesn't work, then what am I going to do? And it's like, well, you're going to figure it out, and then you'll do the next thing. And I come from such a, especially the city kid thing, I come from such a world of like, if you don't make it by the time you're 30, like, what are you doing? And it's like, well, no, actually life is long. And, you know, I watched my mom lose her job when she was 50 and be unemployed because of ageism for like years. And something that like really, really taught me, that my mom instilled in me, was like, you want to still be working when you're 50.
You don't want crypto money and then leave. Like, no.
Yeah. You don't want to peak and then have nothing after 30. That sucks. Like,
that's no life. That's no inspiration.
Exactly. And it's like, life is long. You want to be able to keep living beyond you being like your 30th birthday. Like, that's just, but I feel like sometimes it can be so easy to be like, well, Forbes 30 under 30, like whatever.
Yeah.
This person's so young and they just got this thing. And it's like, that's great for those people. And those people are on their own journeys as well. And I think just not getting in your head about that stuff has been a big part of my process.
It's a huge part of your process because the consistent variable in all that is it's external. It's all external. And it's all people telling you what you should and you need to get the things that you internally desire, which is like such a bummer, because it's like it'll come from people who are trying to help a lot of the times and be like, or like, even if I worked on my play, I worked on a, you know, under the radar play at the end, people immediately would have meetings and they'd say, what's your movie? What's your pilot? I'm like, well, I just did this thing. Like, and so it's all coming at you, and it makes sense that you are like, I guess I should. But it's parsing through what parts are, again, internal and you want to, and what parts are everyone is like, well, you'll never make it unless you do X, Y, Z. And then it's like the next month someone does something different and it makes money and they're telling that story.
Yeah, and I think something I've really learned is being supportive even of those people and of the people who either doubt you or are like, well, how did you get that thing? And like all of those kinds of people. And I'm just such a big supporter of supporting your fellow artist, because
it feels good.
It is so important when you're, especially with something that's like live comedy, it is completely reliant on people physically showing up for you.
Oh,
and
100%.
And no matter who they are, if they are putting up a show, that is hours and sometimes, for in my case, like years of someone's life that they are doing money, like so much of their money, their their whole lives, and it takes nothing to just show up, buy a ticket, post an Instagram story. Just showing up for your fellow artist, even if they don't reciprocate, it really, it's like, it's the best thing you can do for yourself and for your fellow artist.
Because it builds community, which lifts everybody up 100%. And I think, again, you know, people that are your age who will have caught up to you will learn it in the future because they'll experience what you have experienced already, which is like, oh gosh, I can't be comparing. We have to support each other.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and all you can do is exemplify. You can't teach people who haven't experienced that, but it is imperative, and it's fun because then a rising tide, then everybody's chilling and making stuff with money.
And I mean, you've done Fringe. It's like the whole point of these things is to be as unique as possible, and is to be the most authentic version of you that nobody can recreate. So what's the point in like tearing other people down or not supporting other people, because they are different people. They are not you. They can't do what you do because you are you. And it's like, it's so corny, but it's so true.
It's always, you know, the simplest wisdoms are the most impactful. And that's why, like, unfortunately, T.J.Maxx platitude section is like dropping bombs. You're like, yeah, you know what I mean? It's like,
no, you're like, wait,
for sure.
These pillows are so true.
They hit. I remember when I was like in college, Patton Oswalt was doing an interview after he did that movie with Young Adult, I think it was, with Charlize Theron. Mm-hmm. And it was exactly what you're saying. It was such a simple interview, and 1,000 people have said it, right? He was just like, stay in your lane. He was like, literally no one else can do what you do. Because people were asking him. They're like, you know, you're now in an indie movie. And he was just like, I enjoy what I do, and I know I'm the only one that can do it. And it was said in a way that resonated with me. That's the difference, I think, right? People are like, maybe I'm saying something derivative. It's like, no, you're saying something that someone like you can hear for the first time, even if 1 million people have said it, and it matters.
Well, it's so corny. In theater camp, my audition song was always There Are Worse Things I Could Do from Grease. And I used to have this conversation with my like musical directors. I would be like, you know, is it bad that I'm doing this song that everyone sings for their audition? And they would be like, it doesn't matter if it's a song everyone sings. What matters is the spin you put on it and how you perform it and what you bring to it. And it's so silly, but like that message really is like so true for all things beyond There Are Worse Things I Could Do. It's
I love that the people taught you that, right? I love that they weren't like, try and stand out with a fun, jazzy, weird.
Oh, and they did do that too. Don't get me wrong. This was like the one piece of wisdom from like hundreds of horrible messages.
Yeah, your next show is like 800 million adults I don't trust. Here's the rest.
Well, that's my other thing. I was like, I wrote a show where I number and name 6 adults I don't trust. What makes you think? Why would you cross me? I am like...
Ma'am, oh, I love that power. Baby, like, baby, I'm naming names and I'm naming them from experience. I ain't doxing. I ain't saying, I'm just saying, guess what? This is it.
I am a child of Taylor Swift. I have not forgotten anything ever. I just remember.
It's so psychotically, and I think it is genuinely, I know it sounds, I'm going to get really dramatic for a second, but it is genuinely a salve to cancel culture, because we have these things where in cancel culture, right? One, there isn't accountability. There's not accountability culture. And so then we weaponize experience. And so then people take experience as a means to cause harm to the people that caused harm to them, because there is no accountability. And it's so tough because there's validity in it, but the pendulum swings so aggressively and includes so many people that aren't, you know, a part of the mass sort of evil, that then they get to swing everyone all the way back to like, well, everyone's good. And it's like, no, that's actually so not true. And when you are just speaking directly to your experience for you, that is the beauty of it, because you're going, I'm not doing this for any of that. I am saying this is my experience for me. And I think people need to learn from what you're doing. It's beautiful.
Well, I think, especially with a one-woman show, it is so easy to be like, and this is the message.
Mic drop. Oh my God, I know.
And here's the thesis.
Yeah.
But it's like, No, actually, sometimes it's way more powerful to be like, here is my story, and then allow the audience. And then, you say some things explicitly, but then you give the audience room to then take that story and on their walk home be like, wait, that was crazy because like that means adults were doing this. And like when you don't kind of hit it on the nose or whatever the saying is.
Yeah, the hammer on the nose.
Hammer on the nose or whatever.
We're doing great.
Which is also like a crazy, what is that? What do you mean?
Nail on the head. Hit the nail on the head. With the hammer. Yeah.
With the hammer, of course.
We're nailing it. And two in the bush are there as well. So.
Right, of course. I'm like, I think it actually is more powerful to just let your experience speak for itself, because there's a reason you're telling the story. It's not like you're just getting on stage and there are hundreds of stories you could tell. Why are you telling this story? That is the question that the audience should be asking themselves. And we are currently living in a time where like critical thinking could not be worse.
Tough.
Like,
brain rot the house down.
Which, like, trust me, I am so I have to read like 4 recaps of White Lotus every week to understand like the deeper meaning. I get it, but it's like that's what makes good art to me.
Well, it makes you think. Have you struggled with what some people take away? Like what people think the message is? Okay, yeah.
Yes. Well, like sometimes like we did a run of the show and someone was like, I just don't get what like the message was. And I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, but then me and my director were like, you know what? I think I know why. I think it's because the run that person saw, I wasn't acting hard enough, or I wasn't, really taking the time on the certain section that really is where we kind of hone in on the message. And we were like, oh, for that section, we really, really have to take our time so that people really take that part in. And it's like, oh, like every note is helpful.
It shapes it, because then you get to say, listen, I can't control, but I know what I would like you guys to take. And like, because that's the difference, right? It's like you can't control what they take away, but you can say what you desire if you were an audience member to take away, and you can cater to that better when you get their feedback of like, I thought it was about you wanting to be famous. It's like, no, babe.
You're like, oh. or again, it's like people leaving my show and being like, oh, but you have so much time. And it's like, well, did you watch the show? Like,
oh, it's tough.
I just talked about how frustrating it is. Like, so, but it's like, again, it's like, no one is ever saying anything like that out of like malice. They're saying it out of like, wow, like this is what I thought. And it's everyone's interpretation of it is helpful, because it lets you know how, back to what we were saying before, no one's ever perceiving me. Everyone is perceiving you.
Well, and now you get to know yourself so well by doing this day in, day out, that you get to, I always call it like the Rorschach test when somebody tells me what the play was about. When I did, because I've done several plays, but one of years ago, like 2016, with Julia Mouncey and Peter Mills-Weiss and Kate McGee, just a group of incredible people, we made this play. It was pretty dark, and my character was abused by another character, and it was this Rorschach test when people would leave and be like, I thought it was about goof. Like, I thought it was so funny. And it was like, oh, I think maybe you're in denial for something. Like, it was like you immediately knew about that person in a way that felt too intimate. I was like, oh, no, I know about you.
Right, exactly. Like, people's interpretations of art, actually, especially your art, which you know so intimately.
Yes.
That's really when you're able to be like, what
good?
Are you talking about? Whereas like when someone's like, I have this White Lotus theory, I'm like, sure.
I bet. Well, also, I will say that is my favorite part, though, I think, in like really knowing oneself or knowing a piece, or like with the White Lotus, is people show themselves, like when they're like kidding, like, it's that person, I hate that. It's like, maybe there's some internalized misogyny there.
Yeah. I mean, my God, when people like hate one character but are like, this character's fine, and it's like it's like they're like, I hate Amy Lou Wood's character. Patrick Schwarzenegger is fine. He's doing nothing wrong. And it's like, oh, yeah, we are watching different shows.
It's tough to begin the conversation with that person. You're like, I already know where we're at here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm also, so we have a final segment I want time for, but I'm interested in one thing particular that we didn't cover with your mom not having work. I'm interested in how that affected you and your choices to do work, do things, and how that might have incorporated.
Do the least stable industry of all time? Well,
high risk, high reward.
My mom is a lot like me. We have day jobs and then we have our dream jobs that we do in our free time. So my mom by day is a creative director. So she freelances for different teams and companies and, helps them put promos together. And then her dream job is she wants to be a writer of books and stuff. So she just put out her first YA novel 2 years ago.
That's incredible.
I know. And my mom, to be a woman in media is to be a woman who is constantly pushed out and pushed into different spaces and all of these different things. My mom was one of the co-founders of Bust and then got pushed out of that. And, she's just gone through so much disappointment that I think the number one thing she always taught me was other people are always going to let you down, but the one thing you can always do is keep doing your dream, keep doing you, and everything will, maybe it won't be on your timeline, but everything will pan out for you if you just stay committed, stay focused, and also work. You do ultimately, if you don't have generational wealth, which we do not, you do have to have a day job.
Go get some of that.
I know. Wait, someone give me. But it's ultimately, there's nothing wrong with having a day job, having your skill that you do to make money, and then there's room for both. You don't have to make a choice. You don't have to be well, I want to buy a home one day, so I guess I'll just do marketing for the rest of my life. It's no, you actually can do both. You may not get to your dream as fast as you would if you could just do your dream all day, but everything is possible. And in light of so much disappointment, just keep focusing on you, keep focusing on your work, keep writing, keep making the things you want to make. They might not get published, they might not get greenlit, but one day something will.
Which is so beautifully said, and it requires a lot of self-honesty, because people, when they hear self-sabotage or whatever, it's what black and white thinking, and thinking you need to fully quit your job or never have a day job, whatever, to do anything is so self-sabotaging. It is so not allowing yourself to do anything unless you have everything.
Exactly.
It's tough.
It makes it harder to, put all of your energy into your dream job stuff. My day job is doing other people's social media. At the end of the day, the last thing I want to do is my own social media.
Yeah.
But again, it's you find pockets and you find ways in your day and in your week to make room for your creativity.
You do. And I always think, because I'm, day job the house down, but what I always made sure that I don't know necessarily if I preach about it, but I found, because I worked in social media as well and creative agencies for a decade, and it's other people's social media, right? It's usually institutions or companies. But my thing is, when you do jobs that are creatively adjacent to what you do, it's a little draining. It's it's media activism, where you feel like you did something, but you didn't really do something. And I always tell people, try and find a job that has nothing to do with your art, or even just that part of your brain. Because otherwise, you are going to come home and be tired. And I don't know, that part has helped me keep day jobs, because I think if I did do writer's assistant, I did the whatever, they're right. It would be impossible to come home and write up my stuff. That part of your brain has been used all day.
Exactly. And also, I think sometimes it's almost just as exhausting to be so close but so far to the creativity thing you want to do. Yes, it's creative because you are technically writing because you're making a TikTok, but it's yeah, but you want to make movies, which is entirely different medium. But
it's AI, right? You're I know that's not a person, but it looks like a person. You're
right.
And it's no shade to because it's I love the medium of TikTok, the medium of Instagram. Like, making those is incredible. But if it's draining you because you want to be doing something else, get out. Run.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, I love doing it because it is something that like I do, especially at this point. I've been working in it for a few years. I feel like it's pretty natural for me, but it's like, yeah, I don't want to make sketches for myself now. Completely.
But it also sounds like it's driven you maybe in a healthy way to go, I want to make something else.
I'm going to make scripts. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, the journey of a day job.
Oh, people should talk about it more. Maybe that should be a segment on the pod. Like, let's talk about the day job. Because
what is your day? No, I'm like so serious. I'm like, I see these people and I'm like, you have to have a day job.
Of course.
Like, what are you doing during the day?
100%. Everyone's hustling. But to your point, right, we don't validate that sort of, that's not glorious to be hustling. It's not glorious to be grinding. You just want to be the chosen success. And it's like, it's actually way cooler, actually.
I was going to say, I find it much more impressive when I talk to the people who have like 12 jobs and are also finding time to be creative and productive.
And it makes sense. I'm more generative when I have more stuff to do.
Exactly.
I love this. We get into a new segment. That area we could talk a while, but we'll do the final segment. So this final segment is called "Thank You for Holding My Poems," and I really love this segment because it's based on a poet, Anna Akhmatova, who during the Great Terror in Russia, it was illegal to publish poems of resistance. So her and her writers group would memorize edits of each other's poems and hold them for over 30 years and memorize. And like, I just think it's so beautiful because to me, like that Google Doc of yours, right? Like bringing that to someone and having them see your mess, your unfinished things, your tiny moments that you feel like aren't for other people. Having that witnessed, I think, is the most holy thing that can happen as an artist. So this is an abstract segment where truly whatever comes to mind as a poem for you, you can share. And I say for me, it's been like on a really dark day when a barista even just said like, hey, like you're really pretty. It was like, oh, I exist. Like I'm seen unfinished. And so whatever comes to mind, again, it can be your play, but it can be, or your one-woman show or a moment. But I would love for you to share with my listeners your poem.
God, that's so beautiful. That's so sweet.
Isn't that nice?
But we're just asking people to hold space, essentially, for a thing okay. Oh. I'm going to throw a curveball at you.
I can't wait.
I did a fully improvised comedy show for Roku called The Charlie Puth Show.
My friend Lauren, I think, worked on it.
Lauren Mandel. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm shouting. I love her so much. Okay. Yeah.
Truly the best
Lauren
person on earth.
produces the show. Yeah.
Literally the greatest person of all time. Well, I won't say that. I would love...
Nobody watched you, you're going to say?
I would love to encourage people to hold space for the Charlie Puth Show. And I know you're saying to yourself, Ruby, what do you mean? And I'm telling you, it is free. It is on Roku. Give the pilot a chance. It is genuinely, Charlie is so funny. The cast is so funny. I am one of the leads in it.
The cast, mama. The cast is funny. We can guarantee.
But when you watch that show, keep in mind that it was fully improvised. And like, to me, that is true comedy and that is true art and collaboration right there, because me and Natalie were the only people on set who had improv experience.
Oh no, you were improvising with people, also probably actors who like do not do that.
John Mayer, John Legend, La Roche.
Yes, like, and
straight up. And these people, they're all great in it, and it's kind of really cool.
What's also fun about that show is that they cast comedy fans if they were not comedians. So like you could feel the energy of like people excited to play. Like that's
exactly,
cool.
Exactly. And it's like, it's free. It's like 20-minute episodes, and I am genuinely so proud of it. I think it's so great.
I love that as a poem too, because specifically with improv, the thing that gets you drunk is the thing of like, oh, this happened in a moment. Like we created it together and it couldn't have existed without every factor. And that is so heavenly. And I was telling Lauren, it is like this meta curb. It is like, it's so brilliant and so cool. And it is one of those things where I kind of hope it has like a party down story where like in a few years, people will be like, wait a minute. This. Yeah,
I know.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, people are going to discover it and they're going to be like, why did I not watch this when it came out?
It just needs to be like pushed on like a channel that like people are being fed right now. You know what I mean? I'm like, Roku, can you pair with like something that's like buzzed into our brains?
I know.
But that's heavenly. I love that as a poem. We are all, again, we're going to literally witness, listeners, and tell us who you think and tell us your fave character. It's going to be Ruby's.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. That's so fun. Did you have to teach people essentially how to improv without telling them that you were teaching them?
Kind of like, it was like this fun little dance of, we would all kind of take cues from each other, but we filmed like an hour out of LA. So every day on the drive to set, Mike and I, who we were kind of in like the most scenes together and with Charlie, we would write a lot of our jokes on our way to set. Like, I really want to hit this joke. I really want to like hit this beat. And throughout the scenes we would play, and then we would also be like, wait, we wrote this thing and we think it will work here.
That's so fun. That's heavenly.
It was just such a fun little experiment. And I genuinely think you can feel how much fun we're having when you watch the show.
That is my one of my creative partners, Tim Platt, and I. We do semi-improvised plays at UCB, and that is one of the things people get drunk on because they don't get to know what parts we had planned, and most of it's improv. We have like structure planned, but it is that feeling where when you're watching, it's like it vibrates with the energy and it is authentic, and they can't technically know. Obviously you clean things up, ADR, whatever, but it's like the energy's there. It is 100% there.
And it's palpable. You can feel it.
Yeah. That's a beautiful poem. Ruby, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This was so much fun. Thank you for having me.
This has been so delightful. We really like ran through a wonderful gamut of things. Can my listeners, can you, Soho Playhouse through May 3rd, correct? Mm-hmm. And then can they find you on the internet on certain places that you would desire to drop?
I am at Ruby Karp everywhere. So just go to your platform of choice.
Oh, I love those platforms. Well, I end every episode by giving my listeners a compliment and you, and I say, oh my God, you're so pretty.
Oh my God, you're so pretty.
You're so pretty. Thank you for being here, Ruby.
Thank you.
Worse Than You with Mo Fry-Pasek is hosted by me, Mo Fry-Pasek. You can learn more about this week's guest and the Worse Than You team by checking out the show and episode copy. Worse Than You with Mo Fry-Pasek is executive produced by Erica Ghetto, Mariah Gossett, and Lauren Mandel for Good Get and Disco Nap Productions. Oh my God, you're so pretty.
Greta Thunberg is an incredibly gifted and brilliant, like, former child. I was just some kid.